Hey everyone, what's going on? Thank you so much for taking your time to check out this review featuring me and two awesome YouTubers. The first is Anthony Perez coming back to talk about yet another Death Note live action movie, and we've also got a special guest who's appearing on the first time ever as part of a collaboration, and that is the Big Rob Theory. So both of those guys, you can check out their links down below in the description box. Go give them love and tell them that I sent you. So if you're unfamiliar with the premise of Death Note as of right now, it's essentially focused on a character called Light Yagami, who finds this Death Note, and when he finds this Death Note, when he touches it, he summons a Shinigami god named Ryuk. Now, overall and in time, he starts learning to use his Death Note and he starts killing people, and there's a detective called L who kind of works in the shadow but works with the police to try track down and stop Kira in his tracks, and that is basically the premise as well of this rendition of Death Note, set in 2017, made for Netflix. So before I absolutely rip this movie to shreds, because it isn't a great movie whatsoever, I have got to mention three positives. The first positive is the fact of the cinematography and the set use location. Both of those elements in this movie look beautiful. It's definitely a well-polished, stylized movie that really kind of hones in on the Death Note itself, but it's definitely Americanized in kind of a good way. I like the shots we get of, like, say, the night scenes that's in here, or the confrontation between L and Light in kind of like a cafe. Those scenes and the colours and the vibrancy certainly give off a very unique feel to this rendition, and for that I certainly applaud Adam Wingard's direction with those scenes in particular. The second positive I can give this is kind of the deaths and the gore sequences that we get, because by all means in the Death Note anime, you've got, for example, where people are committing suicide, or you've got where people run out in the road, for example. I'm not going to ruin it all for you if you've never seen it or if you want to check out this movie, but they definitely kind of capitalize on that, and some of the deaths feel a bit like Final Destination kind of style, but then also they really used this whole 18 rating, the highest age rating you can get for a movie. They utilized that, at least here in the UK, and I felt like the blood and gore really elevated the Death Note itself, and you kind of felt like, oh wow, if you have this notebook, not only does it kill people, but you can do anything you essentially want to them, obviously within the rules. And I felt like they really capitalized on the death and the gore sequences to really give it that bit more oomph to the movie, and I really respected that. And then the third and final positive of this movie, apart from Lakeith Stanfield performance, who I will give an honourable mention, I think he does a pretty good job as L, and certainly a different, unique take. But the third is Ryuk, who is performed by Willem Dafoe through motion capture and of course CG as well. Ryuk is by far one of the best elements of this, and I love kind of the faithfulness to him eating the apples, a bit like in the manga and the anime, and Willem Dafoe gives a very awesome performance as always. His creepy voice has got a certainly unique take for Ryuk's character, and he was definitely the best decision that they made by bringing him into the film, and his star power once again shows on the screen. The negatives for this movie, well, just before I touch on that, let me hand it over to my guests, Anthony Perez and the Big Rob Theory, to discuss their thoughts on Death Note.
What's going on, Mike and all his viewers? My name's Anthony A. Perez.
My name is the Big Rob Theory.
And thanks so much for having us on this time around to talk about the Death Note 2017 Netflix remake. Now, for full transparency, I've seen the anime and I have seen the other live action films as I've covered them here on the channel with Mike. But this was actually Rob's first ever Death Note thing that he's ever seen. So he went into this completely and utterly blind. So let's start off with your take on this film.
Okay, so I already kind of knew about Death Note, what it was about, how the main character kind of should be, just because I've seen, thumbnails and everything, and I haven't really seen clips, but I've seen just snippets, if you will. I know it's kind of similar, but not full-length clips, just, a little thing, maybe like one line of the main character saying something, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this guy, he's supposed to be kind of solemn, you know, maybe more serious and like in depth with this thing. So yeah, when I saw that the main character, started banging on the window to escape from Ryuk, I was kind of surprised and taken back, and I was just kind of like, what? Okay, I know I don't know that much about this, but I know that it's not supposed to be like that. I get it, you know, it might be a different take, but it was just off to me, you know. So I was already kind of like, okay. I like the concept. Actually, I love the concept. It's just some of the execution just didn't really land for me. What about you?
Yeah, you know, so this is the second time I've seen the movie, and what I can say about it is it's definitely not a good movie overall. Like, watching it the second time, it's not a great film. I think I like it in some ways better than the Japanese ones I've already done with Mike, but not really, because I feel like the story in that one is like almost overly drawn out and just kind of boring, whereas this one is just rushed and just nothing feels earned. You're constantly like, how did we get to this? It progresses way too quickly, and I think that at the end of the day, it's just a sign that Death Note does not translate well to a live action movie. There's just no way you can really capture the essence of what that show is in these movies. It just isn't working out. They would have to completely come at it with a different approach, and ultimately it just goes to show that the anime is still the best thing that ever has existed of this story. You know, there are elements about how this one is shot. I really like Ryuk. Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, I thought was a really good thing, but you hardly see Ryuk in this movie. He's constantly clouded in just darkness, and I don't know, like, I just feel like they could have done a lot more with Ryuk in this movie.
I agree.
And if you've seen the anime, you know that this movie doesn't even touch on a sliver of what the, you know, anime is all about. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely not a fan of this one either. I think overall the Death Note live action stuff, it just isn't good.
I can kind of see that, because anytime we talk about anything anime related and then it goes to live action, case in point, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender live action movie, complete caca. So you see what I'm saying? Anytime they try to
Dragon Ball.
Anytime they try to do Jesus, bro. Anytime they try to do anything from anime and make it live action, it just doesn't work. I'm sure it could. But for right now, it's not. It's just not working. And again, I haven't really seen the anime, so I can't comment or speculate on that right now. That wouldn't be right or fair, you know. So I will just leave it at, for me personally, I just know, based off, you know, him and a few other people who have told me about different animes, like Dr. Stone, for instance, and something like that. It's just that isn't how it was supposed to be, and it's not even, it doesn't even really do the anime justice. And I can already see that, not even seeing the anime. So this actually made me want to go watch the anime, to be honest with you, and I probably will.
Because the concept is great.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's such a really cool concept. But yeah, like, there's certain things that just work in anime when it comes to certain mannerisms, sensibilities of certain elements. Like, that's how they work primarily. They work in anime. They make sense in that medium. The character of L, for instance, who in this film is played by Lakeith Stanfield, and I think he gives a pretty good performance, but the character of L is just everything about him. The way he sits on like chairs, like he actually like stands and crouches on them, like his consistent eating of snacks and stuff like that. It was way worse in the Japanese live action movies. Like, they just leaned into it too much. But there are certain tropes, like a character eating a lot in anime or different things like that, that just work in anime, like weird little things like that, the way that they can sit on a table or something like that. It just doesn't work in live action. It comes across really corny, really cheesy. I think that they handled L better in this movie than they did in the live action ones. I know you haven't seen those, but yeah, I would say that Lakeith Stanfield is probably my favorite live action L, but you know.
I had a feeling. I was going to ask while we were watching it, but obviously, you know, I don't really want to know. I just want to watch. I could see that character, L, is supposed to be somebody who is like
very eccentric,
really all over the place in the anime, you know, and I can literally see it, because the way how you can do animation is obviously completely different than live action. Yeah, animation, live action, but I could see what they were going for there, and that's why it just threw me off, and I was completely disinterested. Like, I like that actor a lot. I actually like him a lot. It's just, and I give him props for that, because that was a good performance, don't get me wrong. but I just
The writing didn't do him any favor.
I couldn't get into that character. I get it. He is like the not antagonist, but like the antagonist
He is,
to
yeah.
Light, you know.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And I just couldn't get into him being the antagonist because I was just like, okay.
The thing is that this movie doesn't make you care about Light itself, himself, and he's played by Nat Wolff in this movie. I don't know. I feel like they were just trying to go for like this edgy kind of like, you know, easily scared. Like, I don't know what they were really going for with Light.
God, Mia.
Yeah, and then the character of Mia, his like love interest, played by Margaret Qualley. Yeah, their whole relationship is so rushed. It feels completely unearned. It's so weird, and she's about to kill his dad at one point. You know, it just not a good movie.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like the dynamic between them was like too sexual for this like Death Note thing. Like it seemed like the whole Death Note thing for them was like a sexual thing, at least for her. So I was kind of like,
it was weird. It was
what
like
do you,
they
like,
got
this?
so
Is
much
this like a
pleasure
weird
out
kink?
of it. Yeah, and
like
it
it's
was
a weird kink at one point. I don't know. That's just my take. It just seemed like it was like a weird kink for them at one point, maybe at the beginning or like even the middle. I don't know.
It just, and the way that
It's
their
just weird.
relationship progresses scene to scene, it just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like there's enough story that's
Yeah,
really
there wasn't enough
fleshing out these moments. It just feels so unearned. And yeah, so we said Willem Dafoe, great. I think I would say he's probably my favorite part in the movie overall. But yeah, I was actually surprised to see who the director of this film was. I never knew it's Adam Wingard, who actually just directed Godzilla vs Kong, which isn't a great film narratively, but it was super fun to watch. Definitely better than this movie. He's also directed the 2 VHS films and the Blair Witch remake from a few years ago, which I never saw, and I heard was not that great. But yeah, overall, I just found this to be just a very rushed feeling, cool looking movie. I'll give it a cool look, but very rushed feeling story that just doesn't do any justice to that anime. And that's gonna be my final thoughts.
Yeah, sorry folks. I don't really got much else either. It's just, I don't know. Maybe you other Death Note fans out there, maybe you can enlighten me a little more. I'm definitely gonna watch the anime. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna watch it. Just if you're fans of this movie, can you just explain to me a little bit as to why? Only because. No. I don't mean it like that. I mean it like. It's just I tried to like it because I do love the concept. I love the concept and I love Ryuk. Like I love that. It's just I don't know. It just missed the mark for me. I just couldn't get really invested because again, the whole rushing of the romance, you know, even the father-son dynamic, I wasn't even really into that, you know, and then
It doesn't tell a good story.
yeah, and then L, okay, great, you're a psycho, cool, and then just I feel like Ryuk should have been like in there way more than he was, you know, like way more. That's who I really wanted to see. I really wanted to see Ryuk a lot more.
And he's in the story a lot more.
I had a
They
feeling.
they really underutilize him in the movie. It's wild.
But the way it looks, great. Some of the acting, not so great. But, you know, it worked for the movie for what it was. So, I'm looking forward to the anime.
The deaths are cool. Like the
I'll
effects
give
on
him
the
that,
deaths are pretty cool. But yeah, I will show him the anime very soon. And yeah, I think that's going to be our thoughts. Thanks so much, Mike, for having us on. I'm sure our links are down below in the description box. Anthony A. Perez, The Big Rob Theory. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Fellas, thank you so much for your respective thoughts, and thank you so much for joining me onto this collaboration to talk about this 2017 rendition of Death Note. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and I loved hearing them. And I think overall in a consensus, we all agree this isn't a great movie. In terms of this movie compared to the Japanese live action ones, I would say that the first two live action ones of the Japanese are the best. Then it's this version of Death Note, and then there's L, Change the World, in my opinion. The thing is, the negatives with this movie is they kind of have no faithfulness to the original anime, maybe about 10%, if that. Light Yagami isn't called Light Yagami in this movie, he's called Light Turner. There's no reference to him being called Live Turner in any source material that I've ever read, so I don't know why they made that decision. They also make a decision where Light's mom is killed off in this movie. In the anime manga, she isn't killed off. She is a character in the anime manga. It just makes absolutely no sense, some of the decisions that they made, and I do respect Adam Wingard for maybe trying to go a different route with this. I get it. but there's so many changes where all the faithfulness to the anime is just thrown out of that window on my side, because I'm in a hotel right now, but it might as well have been thrown out that window and just a dog came along and crapped on it, because really they kind of have really not much faithfulness to the anime whatsoever. They definitely felt as if they were making this movie to have a second part, because they must have thought, wow, this is going to be so popular, we'll capitalize on this and we'll make a movie. I generally think Death Note itself would be a fantastic adaptation in a TV series, personally, to go with this if they're going to adapt it from the anime manga to live action. But also the negatives in this movie is how they write Light's character. So for me, my favourite character in the whole of Death Note is Light Yagami, and a lot of people might think that's controversial because I know a lot of people love L, and I do like L, don't get me wrong, but Light is very more interesting personally for me. I love his character. He's a very smart, he's a very enigmatic character. He doesn't go showing off his Death Note. He has it literally trapped in his drawer, for if anyone did open the drawer except from him and know how to open it, it would automatically burn, which would destroy any evidence. He doesn't go around having a love interest. He essentially uses women as part of his overall plan to become a god of a new world, which makes sense. The guy is very smart. He's a straight A student in school and then going on to college. In this movie, Light Turner sees this woman called Maya, who plays Margaret Qualley's character, and within one scene, he shows her this Death Note. He has it out in school reading this goddamn notebook. And I'm just like, why are you exposing this notebook in front of every single person? It just makes no sense. It makes the character look dumb. He's a whiny little bitch as well, I will put it that way, in this movie. And he also just really isn't an engaging character. The dynamic with his father is so well built up in the anime. You care about his father being the head of police. In this movie, I didn't give a shit. I was like, you might as well just kill him off, because I really don't care about his character. And yeah, this movie overall sucks, and I generally agree with Rob and Perez on this one. Rob, the only advice I can give you is seriously go watch the anime, then you'll definitely have more thoughts about this movie and why you probably won't like it even more. Overall, on my rewatch, again, with the 3 positives I mentioned earlier, that is my best aspects about this, but besides that, the movie's trash. So with that in mind, my overall rating for Death Note 2017 is... So once again, a big thank you to my guests in this video for taking time out and to join me on this endeavour. So Anthony Perez and the Big Rob 3, both their links are in the channel's description box below. Go check them out, go give them some love, tell them that I sent you, and go give them some love and support. I'd really sincerely appreciate it. But in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And have you seen the Death Note 2017 adaptation? If so, leave all your comments down below in the comment section and let me know, did you see that?